Welcome, welcome. Good morning. I'm awake too. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, you know what I'm saying? It's a new day, so my soul's new, your soul's new. And even a great way to represent that, today's actually my birthday. I did turn 22 today, so I'm a brand new person. You know, God gives us this ability every day to wake up and have a brand new soul. So me expressing it is by starting this trend of hopefully daily YouTube videos. So we do have a treat today, right? Something that's near and dear to me. I watch a lot of streams in my off time, or a few here and there. Not all the time. I only watch select people, but I used to watch them a lot. I used to watch them very heavily, and the reason why I don't, hopefully, he touches on in this video. So we're gonna get straight to it. We're gonna get straight to it. This young man right here. So guys,
Nobody cares anymore, honestly. Like we have arrived at a position, right,
mm,
that like the streamers have stopped caring, but the audience has gotten more and more radical. Like the audience demands more progressivism, more radical behavior.
I would say, um, I didn't become any more radical in my time throughout streaming. I don't really type in chat, but I do know what he means with certain communities have definitely gotten radical because the concept of streaming has changed over the years for sure, especially with how streamers interact with their communities. A good example, Aiden Ross in his community. There's some interesting fellows. That's why a lot of people look at them a certain way, but it's not only his community. There's a lot of communities that have radicalized, or maybe most communities have radicalized. But I also think that's just a reflection of the world.
Right. It's kind of like it mirrors what you see with the Democratic establishment and the Democratic base. You have the Democratic establishment who thinks that they can just do what they used to do and still succeed. And the base is like, no, we actually want more. No, we're anti-genocide. No, you must move to where we are, or we're going to not support you. And now the audiences are doing the exact same thing for streamers, right? Streamers think that they can just do what they did in 2020 or 2025. It's not 2025 now. 2020 or 2021 or 2022 and just like go live, play games, chop it up with people on Among Us or whatever. And then they'll like succeed and they'll
Nobody getting on Among Us, but I feel them though.
make a bunch of money and then their audience will just suck it up, right? That's not where we are anymore as a society. Like in the same way that like audiences for Hollywood movies are demanding.
Also, quick disclaimer, I don't watch videos in one time speed. I usually watch them in two times, but for y'all, I'll just put it on 1.5. Can't be sitting here for too long, you feel me? It's
Like
ridiculous.
pro-Palestinian actors, right, or pro-Palestinian sentiment from the actors in these movies. And if you don't express your sentiment for Palestine, they're like, "Look, you get out of here." Which honestly, they're not wrong to do. But like the executives in Hollywood at large is just not keeping up with how fed up people are as a whole. Because usually it's not this bad. Usually it's here's what the take was that I had. Right, people utilize streaming and Hollywood and music as escapism. Right, there are the woes of their life as working class people under capitalism, and they would go to these forms of entertainment to escape from the woes of real life. However, society, especially American like society, has deteriorated so far that there is no escape, right? Like your neighbors are being kidnapped outside of their homes.
Now, hear me out. This is Taylor Brands, a business builder that has everything that you need to set yourself up
Awesome.
for success.
You get a, I mean, you're
I would just say the escapism hasn't disappeared. It's just that the way that they express themselves and tend to escape is simply that they just turn to their teams, like the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Like children use the media that they consume, but adults, their escapism is by believing that they're in a team that's a large team, like the Democrats and the Republicans. It's like by them being a part of that group, they don't have to take fault for the reality that they're living in.
Your trans siblings are being systematically removed from society, right? There's a genocide going on, being funded by the tax money that that the government is taking from you, and they won't even give you things like healthcare. They won't even fix your roads.
Right.
And so you're just like, there is no escapism, right? There is nowhere for me to go. And now you open up your stream, you open up twitch.tv, and you look up your favorite streamer to watch when it was, oh, everybody's playing Among Us, and you see them, right? Multi-millionaires completely ignoring the fact that, your cousin just got taken by ICE. You know what I mean? Completely ignoring the fact that you see a genocide happening and you think it's reprehensible, but they're just, oh, we're gonna play a power washing simulator or whatever. You know what I mean? We're gonna play water park simulator or whatever, And so you see that and you're like, how out of touch can you be, right? I'm dealing with the woes of my life, right? And you can't even acknowledge.
I think his perspective is very skewed here. I think they already know that the streamer is not gonna do that. So their way to cope with it is by trolling or bringing it up in a funny way that might add to the stream. I mean, I see it more because I'm in the chat with those sort of people. I don't see them. I don't see them saying, "How dare you?" for not. But they may get upset if they donate, specifically speaking on the matter. But before, it's not a preconceived notion that the streamer won't acknowledge it. Usually there's like a tactic understanding between the streamer and the viewer what comes with talking to that sort of streamer, because I mean each streamer has their own personality. But in recent times, the way that they converse with the streamer has changed because of the political climate, I suppose, and the state of the world.
Like, hey, there are bad things going on. I acknowledge that, right? If you want to get away from that, come here, right? You're just like, hey, there are no bad things going on. Feel me? What a great life we live, right? And people see that and they're just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I have a theory about this because so many streamers are upset about viewership dropping. I know something that changed, but political streamers are still doing well. It really does seem like people can't pretend anymore. Yeah, that's true. It's true. And people take their anger out for either if their viewership dropping or for their audience being more hostile towards their content and their lack of coverage about current events, right? Or their lack of morals. Yeah. And
he's saying, oh, because they're not covering current events. That's why their viewership is dropping. And if they were, and his argument is that if they were to talk about current events or talk about marginalized community or show their morals on stream, they would be able to keep their viewership, which is nonsensical because they didn't start streaming for that. Even the people who started streaming is so that they could escape from reality. They started streaming so they didn't have to go the conventional route in life. And the conventional route is dealing with those things on a day-to-day basis. So streaming is completely the antithesis of that. So when you do indulge in it, you can't escape real life. So I mean, it's like you could say, yeah, they could compromise. I don't know if it'll work very well. But also for a lot of those people, it would show their true side that they don't want to show on the internet, which is probably also why they don't even talk about it in the first place. Because they don't want to show that side of their life. There's a reason why people don't show certain parts of their life on the internet.
And they take that out on the political content creators, right? On the political streamers. They look at us and they're like, y'all did this, right? Namely, they look at Hassan, to be entirely fair. They're not looking at.
And then look at him. Then he tries to insert himself and say, oh, now they're blaming us because we're the only ones who talk about it. Well, I mean, that's what you're there for. You should accept the viewership that you're getting. and be happy that they're even interacting with you. Otherwise, you'd have nobody on your stream.
At me. You know what I mean? They're looking at Hassan. They look at Hassan and they're saying, you did this. You know, it's your fault. You know what I mean? It can't be me. It can't be the
How's
fact
that
that
the top?
my audience has shifted, right? And acknowledged that a genocide is occurring. And they want me to do that as well. No, it must not be that. It must be that Hassan's audience, their wokeness has infested and invaded, you know, into the wider streaming landscape. And if only there wasn't politics on the platform, everything would go back to how it was in 2020. Everything would go back to how it was in 2021. And it just objectively is not the case, right? Because when you have literally Republicans who are like, dog, we gotta stop whatever happened in
No, it would be the case. It would be the case because streaming is it's the internet, you know. It's not comparative to the real world. The only reason why the the influence from the world seeps in is because you can't keep every part of your life away from the stream. That's why little bits seep in here and there. But just because one person's influence has become so large on the internet, even still, there's majority of the people who stream their communities don't know Hassan. Majority of Kaisernet viewers don't know Hassan. So if politics was so influential and touching upon everybody's life, everybody would be having conversations with Hassan or having conversation with the biggest political streamer, and that's just not the case. So I think he's inflated his problem a little too large, but it don't really matter. You know, that's I would say that the real reason why it's not the same is because, which he did touch upon, a lot of the things that aren't supposed to be seen are starting to become seen. Like he tried to bring in the trans issue, and I'm not gonna speak too much on that, but but different different political issues have started to spawn, right? But there were already political issues back in the day. There was just that there wasn't that many big streamers talking about political issues before Hassan was on the scene, um, and before the political influencers were on the scene. But the things that weren't supposed to be seen, now they're kind of used as a method to gain fame. Yeah, facts. It's usually a method to gain fame, like gay celebrities or gay influencers, like putting that as the forefront of their stream and to talk about that, or like even politics. Politics is supposed to be a side issue in life, but if you make it politics as your main thing to stream about, then politics becomes your life. And and in this instance, streaming, where it's supposed to be that streaming is your main life and then all other issues are side things, when politics is a reflection of the real world, then it kind of flips the dynamic. Like that's what I'm saying. Like politics wasn't really big before, but that's because people have started focusing on the smaller issues outside of streaming and bringing them to the stream. That has changed the dynamics of streams. That's why a lot of people who don't want to talk about politics even in the first place kind of can't, because real world has started to influence streaming so much. So, and that's not due to politics. That's due to many different things, like social issues too, like the trans thing. It's social issues too. People putting their identities first in the stream. I mean, the stream is just supposed to be about entertaining content, and sometimes it gets derailed.
Gaza, right? Like 40% of freaking Republicans. And that's not even getting started about like the 80% of Democrats who believe that we should stop sending weapons to Israel, right? It's objectively most of the country. So in most of the country is in an understanding that like, hey, genocide is bad and we should not be funding it. There's this abhorrent thing that is happening right now and we should be addressing it. And you see these multimillionaires who got rich and famous off the backs of the audience pretend like nothing's wrong, that's going to frustrate people. Apparently, Mulligan described him as a senator for the left. I mean, it's true. Some woke viewers infested the country. Yeah, population is not being heard on pretty much anything. Exactly. And unfortunately, streamers, streamers are just the most accessible target for that anger. This is
I don't think that matters at all, though. I'm not gonna lie. He's saying that viewers are upset that streamers aren't talking about this. That's because those viewers are new to streamers. Streamers have avoided these topics for years and years and years and years and years. So I don't know why they're saying, oh, this influx of new viewers. Well, because new viewers come in every single year to Twitch. People can say that, oh, Twitch's viewership is down. That's just because older viewers stop watching Twitch. It's new young viewers every single year, and these new viewers don't have they don't have an idea of what the history of Twitch is like. So if you've been watching Twitch for a while and you still watch it for a while, then you're gonna watch it for the same thing. It's like Twitch's values was never supposed to change. It was never supposed to change. It was always just supposed to be focused around making content, making entertaining content. And content is usually not supposed to revolve around real life with the stream, because the stream is like not real life. So that's what I'm saying. Like the new climate of streams where a lot of life is introduced into it makes people wonder why aren't all streamers doing this? But they've been streaming for a while now, and they streamed before this was a thing. That's what I'm saying. The old streamers, they already streamed before this was a thing. So it's like, you want us to change our ways now, but the whole reason why we keep streaming this way is because our viewer base wants to see this. It's the new viewers who are wondering, what is this? Why is it not like this? But that's because they don't really have history here. But I have been rambling a lot.
not unique to the streaming landscape. It's happening in Hollywood. It's happening in the music industry, right? It's happening to actual celebrities. People are yelling at Taylor Swift. The Swifties are mad. The Swifties are angry. The Swifties are yelling at her. The Swifties are calling her a mediocre white woman who doesn't use her platform well. If that's not indicative of where people are, I don't know what is. And unfortunately for streamers, they are just the most accessible targets for that anger. They are literally the most accessible celebrities, right? Streamers are the only millionaires that you can directly talk to. I can't see this. You might have sent me a private tweet, or you might have sent me a tweet from somebody who's blocked me. So I think it's private, or it's deleted. I have no idea what it is. Chatter. You need to send a screenshot or something in an Imgur. But does that make sense? Does that make sense as to like why things are so or feel so different now? Because I saw this tweet from Abe that literally asked that question. Why does streaming feel so different now? I think also Cidion had I don't know what Abe's Twitter is. Oh, I figured it out. Oh, here. That's the part that bothers me is see streamers who don't have moral fortitude to speak out because they don't want to risk any hate having a platform, not using it out of fear. And then, well, then just get out. Yes, this is how a lot of people feel as well. But I think that's a part of the same conversation, right? That's the same thing about like streamers just not meeting the moment. The audience has this expectation about like it is moral to speak out against the genocide, and you're not doing that, right? Over here. Now the question is, wait, there we go.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying though. I think people don't understand that streaming was never about morality or morals. It's now that people are embroiled in what's happening in today's world and think, oh, that these streamers who have never been interested in morals should talk about it, and they're like, oh, they're not meeting the moment. Well, it's because there wasn't a moment before. So if they do it now, it's kind of different. So, and then they're like, well, I mean, they're protecting their interests. Uh, Me personally, I do believe you should be a moral person in life, and I will speak about moral things. That's why I told you God has given me a new soul today to rise again and do something new because I believe in God. But that's my morals. That's not the streamer's morals. And I understand because I watched streamers for a very long time. I watched Pokimane when she was when she was saying the N word. I watched Pokemon when she was playing League of Legends. I watched Lily Pichu when she was playing League of Legends too. That was a different time. A very different time.
I figured it out. I can do this. I can. Yeah. Abe said, "What is happening lately? I'm just trying to have fun and play games with my friends." I have to find the Sydney tweet or I don't know if it's a screenshot or something. It was with the same sentiment, but I've seen it a lot. I've seen people being like, "Why is it different? Why does it feel different? Why does streaming feel different than it did in the past?" Right? And it's just that like people don't want escapism. How much do you think the COVID lockdown led to this? Like I feel like online spaces got drastically more toxic since then. No, I think
It's not that people want escapism or don't want escapism, because that's the cornerstone of it. That's why gaming is still at the top of streaming, because it's always been about escapism. So you're missing the mark. People are more aware today, yes, 1000%. Children are mostly too. The reason why escapism was so prevalent is because the children, all they were worried about was escaping. So they would go on there, watch their favorite streamer play a game, and not talk about anything in the world. People still do that largely today. And those kids who grew up, they still want to do the same things today too. Maybe the new kids that are coming up don't care so much about it because they're more focused on the world. But Twitch is a space where you maintain your viewers and your community. Your community is based off of your history. So if you're changing it to appease new viewers, you're going to lose your old viewers. And the point of Twitch is to keep your old viewers for as long as possible. And that's just the crucifix of it. I mean, if you can't see that, then that's why they stay in their ways, because it is incentivized to stay in your ways.
it's the opposite, right? The space was only like this, like to have fun, play video games. It was only like that because of COVID, right? Because that's when escapism was at its height, right?
This is Cap once again, because he doesn't understand the history of Twitch. Twitch has not been around for just 5 years. Twitch been around for 10, probably 15 years now. It wasn't just that. So it's like, bro, I get it. You seen Twitch because of COVID, because you were inside. That's when an influx of all these new people came in, but all these new people don't understand the history behind Twitch. That's all I'm saying. So it's just like it's good what he's saying, but to be honest, like he's getting stuck on the part that he's saying, and he doesn't really understand the perspective. And I do need to speed this up because
peak. It was we're
I'm
all trapped
talking so
inside.
much.
We were all sitting
Please stop
alone in our
too much.
rooms, essentially. We want to see people have fun. We want to see people do the things that we can't do, right? And that is how streaming got to the point where it was. At the height, it was this virus is keeping us all inside. Let's see what's happening in other people's lives, right?
I'm
And so
gonna
that was
pop
the
butters just in case
escapism,
people
you know. But
can.
now, right, we are now 5 years removed from the start of the lockdown, and we are in the midst of a fascist takeover where the Republicans hold all three branches of government. The Democrats are doing nothing to
So this is what I would say. Because of COVID, all those spiked viewers now are kind of falling off because they only came because they were looking for an escape, which they couldn't do before, or which they didn't do before. But the old viewers, they were watching just because they already were watching. So it's like to them it doesn't really matter much. But to the new viewers who were forced into this lifestyle, then I can understand why you're saying, okay, yeah, there's a drop off now. I mean, because they want to focus on the world, so they will focus on the world. So I do understand that, but there's no point in holding on to those viewers anyway because they have more important things to do in life anyway.
stop them. You're seeing massive deportations. You're seeing bipartisan genocide from both parties when Joe Biden was in office and now when Trump is in office, right? With our tax dollars, and we can't get universal health care. We can't get student forgiveness. We can't have our roads fixed. We can't fix housing, right? Prices are skyrocketing. Tariffs are affecting everything. Like, there is no escape, right? You have a cutting snap. The government currently right now shut down. Like, everything is significantly worse. And then you open up your streaming like site, thinking, right? Thinking you want escapism. People open up Twitch thinking, I want escapism. Please give me escapism. But they don't realize until they are watching these streams, they're like, I don't want escapism, actually, right? They're watching these streams, they're like, this is not making me feel better, right? This is not putting food on my table, right? This is not going to make Snap, you know, or extend the time limit for Snap, you know? This is not going to make it easier for me to buy a house. This is not going to end the genocide in Gaza. This is not going to make my cousin be undeported, right? And all I'm doing by watching these streams is I'm watching out-of-touch millionaires play video games with other out-of-touch millionaires, right?
Yeah, but those people came to Twitch to do that. The people that you're talking about are a niche group in the Twitch community, so it's like we should focus on including what they want when they weren't really a part of Twitch in the first place. They were only doing it because it was cool and they had to. So I do actually understand where he's coming from, but if you do that, you're just gonna change the landscape of Twitch and ruin all the old viewers' experience, which is the cornerstone of Twitch, the old viewers. Those are the ones who donate the most. Those are the ones who keep the streamers afloat. So I would say that the reason why he views it from this lens is because it seems like he's a Democrat, and the Democratic ideals, they kind of like penetrate through their bones, and it's like, let's start saying that everybody needs to be included, but at some point you gotta understand not everybody can be included. That's why there's minority and majority rules that people focus on. Like minority communities focus on their minority community because they cannot address everybody's issues while also helping their minority unless they want to stop having minority and majority. They would just be all humans at that point. If they could do that, then they would do that. But it's not a realistic conclusion. So that's why they don't do it, because it's not realistic. So and that's what this is here. So the people saying that they don't like the auto touch millionaires, they weren't really truly Twitchers in the first place.
That's what the audience sees, and that frustrates so many people, right? And so when Ludwig says something about freaking Collargate, right, and even rides the fence, people get so angry. I would say slightly irrationally angry, right? They shouldn't have gotten that angry at Ludwig for that thing, Like genuinely, like it was like the amount of anger that was exhibited in that moment was like almost like unheard of. You feel me? And when Cutie made the tweet about Asmon going to Ada Ross's Streamer Awards, the amount of anger that she got was like completely outside the realm I think that she was expecting, that I was expecting, right? And that most other streamers were expecting. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason as to why that is, right, is because people are taking out their anger from their lives on the most accessible, privileged people that they have access to, right? And maybe that's unfair to the streamers, right? Like maybe that's unfair to the streamers, but you have to understand that it's a product of how society is right now. It is a product for the way that people like interact with their material conditions, right? And yeah, maybe it's unfair. Maybe it's unfair to have that expectation of your streamers, right? It's not for me to be, it is fair or unfair, right? But that's just how it is. I don't see the Peter tweet. Oh, yeah, I'm not worried about raising of not having food stamps. No, that's insane, Chatter. And I won't even dignify that with an actual response. I'm just telling you that it's insane. Because Ludwig probably felt like lighthearted office drama content for more people. It's more about the coordinated to spread the most popular leftist influencer, who tries to advocate for real solutions for the problems the audience seeing in their lives. Yeah, 100%, right? Because I think what people don't understand is like outside of streaming, like the streaming space, Hasan is popular. Hasan is very, very popular. Genuinely. You leave this bubble, Hasan is extraordinarily popular. What Hasan advocates for is extraordinarily popular. Genuinely. He is. Because he's speaking to the issues that people have, they experience, right? So even people who are like tangentially aware of like streamers, right? Especially on TikTok. Don't even get me started on the wokeness on TikTok, right? And they're not even the biggest fans of Hasan, right? But they're just like, dog, these millionaires only want to talk about like things that are happening when it's drama. They don't want to discuss like the fact that Snap's getting turned off. They want to yell at the guy who wants to discuss that. They don't want to discuss the fact that people don't have healthcare. They want to yell at the guy who wants to discuss that. They don't want to discuss the genocide. They want to yell at the only guy on the platform who wants to discuss that. That's what they see. That is what the base sees. Like the working class people see. Even if they're not like directly Hasan fans, they'll be like, yo, I don't like Hasan, but like I hate all of these other streamers because they're out of touch millionaires who don't understand what I'm going through in my life. You know what I mean? But in 2020, it was just a different time.
Build a website you love
I'm going
with
to
Wix.
advertisement right quick.
For your words, create your brand.
So,
right?
I mean,
Them being out of touch was a plus because it let people imagine that they were in that position.
Just because he talks about politics because he likes politics does not exclude him from the club. In fact, he's probably one of the worst ones because they keep calling this the incident with his dog Collargate. I mean, he's out of touch because instead of trying to train his dog, actually he uses a shot collar. I mean, I've done some bad things with dogs too, so I understand, but he uses his dog as a prop for his show in the first place. He puts her there every time the show. He's got a cute dog on screen. He wants to show her off like that. But I mean, if you don't understand reality, in reality, if you have trouble handling your dogs, he shouldn't even be on the screen, to be honest, because you know that it's gonna affect how people view you. They're gonna say you should do this with your dog, you should do that with your dog. If you didn't want any of those things to happen, you wouldn't even have her on stream. But he uses her as a prop because he realizes, oh, people are gonna like this. So when he shows that he shocks his dog to keep her in line, it's just a repercussion. Then people want to say, oh, he's the only person talking about it. Who cares if he's the only person talking about it? Who, I mean, they came to him because they wanted reality. So they're gonna get mad at him for reality. I mean, it's like with Asmongold's viewership. Asmongold has people who are very large gamer fans, and they like when he includes stuff about reality, but because they're gamer fans, they don't really like acknowledge the things that he's saying or view them as reality. They just like that he's saying it because he was a person who helped them escape from reality. And so even if the stuff he's talking about is about reality, he's helping them escape. So by helping them escape, he's gonna perpetuate the nonsense that comes out of his head. Nobody should believe the things that he's saying because he's only there just to talk about games or play games. But then he will talk about politics. But his fans, they don't really care about his political takes. They just care that he's able to be the person that they want him to be, the escapism that they need him to be. So then the part of his fan base that are more interested in the republicanism and the white conservative, which is majority of his fans, he can appease them by talking about politics, but while still being the escapism that they want in life. And of course, he's turned off a lot of his other viewers because of that, because of him speaking more on the politics. But that's his base though. So by speaking on the politics, he was able to reinforce his base, and by not being inclusive and not bringing in more people and then keeping them recurring, even if he's talking about straight nonsense, it makes no sense, even though he literally has cockroaches that crawl up on him in his streams and then he lets them out back in his room. So it's like these are things people do to keep their base. These are things people do to allow themselves to stay afloat on Twitch. So Hassan was doing the same thing by keeping his dog in the screen. He's trying to promote like, oh, I'm a good dog owner. You see, look how well behaved she is. Look how nice she is whenever my friends come around, right? But so then his viewers, because they believe that he's such a real person, they're gonna they're gonna encroach on his reality when he does something wrong in their eyes. But that's what comes with trying to be the person who talks about real life. You get criticized.
Like them being
for
out-of-touch millionaires, essentially, playing games with their friends, worked to their benefit because it let people who were stuck inside their house during COVID. Imagine, what if that was me? That could be me, chat. All I have to do is buy a camera, strap it to my MacBook, and that could be me one day. And now there is just very little hope. There's not that much hope. Was there ever? In 2020, there was. People were stuck inside. They could imagine a world that was like, we're not stuck inside anymore. Thank you, Sad Girl. I appreciate that. So there was a little bit of hope for people, especially when you consider the election that was happening as well, right? BLM, there's a lot of motivation behind BLM. The election was coming up. And so there was hope. There was like, hey, maybe there is a better world, right? Maybe there is a better world coming. And we can fight for that. Now we just had the election. We just had the election. The genocide is still ongoing. Prices are increasing. There is not very much light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of people, right? And then so the escapism, right, the apoliticism of the streaming space just comes across as hollow. It just reads as hollow, and people are very, very mad because of it.
Sean the Black says,
right?
She's my African princess.
And part of me feels bad for these streamers because they legitimately did not realize the tide was shifting. Partially because they're a little bit out of touch, but they just didn't realize it. They did not understand, right? They could not see the brewing anger inside of not only just American society, but inside of their own base as well, inside of their own viewers. They just couldn't understand that, couldn't fathom that being the case, right? So now the anger feels irrational. Now the anger feels like things have changed. And yeah, they don't know how to respond to the tide shift. Okay, if they can afford to eat in their meds. I mean, that's true, right? And the added issue on top of that is that most of these streamers are only surrounded by other millionaire streamers. So it's not like they have anybody to tell them, hey, let's do some introspection here. You know what I mean? They're like, most of them are only, like, they only interact with on a day-to-day basis other people who are going through that same thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, your average.
It's like he says these things and he believes them to be true. Like, it doesn't matter to these people if they have introspection. They probably do have regular people around them. It's just that this is not what that's like Twitch is also has become their job too, but it's also become their escape mechanism. So why would they want to talk about real life and introspect on the stream for their viewers to cope with real life when them not talking about real life is their method of coping with real life? So that's what I say. He just doesn't really understand the truth behind streaming, I suppose. I mean, maybe once I think the problem is just that, I mean, he's doing very well, better than me, making more money than me off the internet, absolutely. But I just think if he was a type of person who was getting like 10K subs a month, he wouldn't be saying the same thing he's saying right now. He wouldn't be like, man, why are these people doing this? And then you can say, oh, it's because they're not moral. But really, I mean, it's just their own coping mechanism. I mean, and morality is based off of what you're surrounded by and what's in your world. So I mean, if your world is that you're helping everybody around you, and I mean, you're being a great person in your community, but when you go to work, you don't talk about the world or anything to do about the world, so you can consistently make money. And if that's just your world, then that's your world. So, I mean, that's why I say streaming is not supposed to be everything. If your goal is to talk about politics and bring light to people who don't know much about it and constantly bring it up, then that's what your goal is, and that's what people are going to criticize you for, and they're going to criticize you for the real world. But if you're practicing escapism and trying to focus on things that don't have to do with the world, then nobody's going to question you for not talking about the world. Like with RDC streams, people do not bring up politics in there, and that's because RDC doesn't talk about politics. But sometimes it'll seep through, but more than likely it won't. And majority of the time they're playing games. Sometimes they go IRL, but they largely stray away from that. And I mean, they do completely well. And their chats do not complain about why isn't RDC talking about the genocide happening in Gaza, which I'm with the Palestinians, so I completely understand. I completely understand wanting people to bring it up more and talk about it and help more. But the stream is a form of escapism for them too. In real life, they have to deal with those thoughts, but on stream, they don't have to. So that's why I say it's like a double-edged sword. Like both people are getting stabbed by it.
Switch viewers 5 years older with nothing to show for it and probably having their money covered less. Yeah, 100%. And so I think because of that, the people who are hit by this less are like the phase boys, right? Is like Kai and them, right? The people who have the younger fan base who didn't grow up with things getting worse. But if you are a legacy streamer and you have a legacy fan base, a base that grew up with you for the last 5 years, right?
This is literally what I was just talking
This
about.
game,
You finally brought it up.
you're not ready for it.
Your fan base is 5 years older now. 5 years older, they've went through college, right? They finished high school, they went through vocational school, they went through trade school, they went through
Wait,
college.
never
Well, they're 5
mind.
years deep into
Never
like
mind.
working, and
Never mind.
things are more expensive. They're saddled with debt. There's a genocide going on in their names with their tax dollars.
Never mind. He does not know what he's talking about at all. The younger kids watching Kai are those kids who are going to be complaining about not talking about the genocide, and those people who are going to be talking about political issues, because in this day and age, that's what they're confronted with on TikTok. That's what they're confronted with on Instagram Reels, Twitter, or X, whatever. those are the people who are going to be talking about that. The 19, 20-year-old people, I mean, they're still going to be talking about it, but that's because they're growing up in this internet age. But the people who are like 20s or 30s, they're just trying to watch a stream and chill and not talk about those things because they have to worry about their bills and they'd rather not ruin a good time.
Their friends are being deported, right? Their rights are being overturned. Abortion was struck down. And you're looking for that same level of escapism, right? That you got in 2020 when it was COVID, when you were in high school and college, right? And it just feels hollow now. It doesn't feel the same as it used to. Because of course it doesn't, right? Your life has gotten significantly worse. Your material conditions have worsened. And then the same person who you thought for the last 5 years was telling you how much they care about you and your identity and your community, right? And you feel as though they're seemingly ignoring your plight and your struggles, right? That's going to frustrate you. You know what I mean? That's going to upset you. And so once they have the slightest misstep, right? Once that streamer slips up just a little bit, right? The dam breaks and all of that anger that has been brewing up inside of those people, right? Inside of those viewers comes crashing out like a wave. And so it legitimately, it feels like it's out of nowhere. It feels like it's irrational. It feels like it's coming like just like it's a hate campaign that is sparked out of nothing, right? Like a tsunami.
Not gonna lie, this is a completely wrong conjecture. The reason why so many people were hating on Hassan, this is not the first time Hassan has gotten hate. When he bought that car, whenever he bought, I think he bought a Porsche or whatever, there was a huge stream of hate coming towards him because they're like, oh, aren't you like a communist, like socialist? Why are you buying expensive things when you could be using that money to give back to people? And that's why I say, like, people don't even understand the truth behind this streaming thing. That he believes in those policies, but he's not going to throw away his material wealth to change society. He just wants to talk about it with people on the stream and educate them. He does not think that he's going to try to actually change that in his everyday life. So him talking about the politics is also a form of escapism. He's already saying, haven't I already done enough? Can't I just buy this Porsche, chill in my condos and live a good life? You know? So that's why I say it's like you're conflating one issue with another, saying, oh, because people are dealing with hard times now they're just looking for a way to take down a streamer. No, these people, they're already, like, their life is already miserable as a viewer. So, in most viewers' life is miserable, but they go to the stream to make it a little bit less miserable. So, whenever a streamer makes a mistake in the game or even in the just anything to do with the stream, the viewer is going to go out of his way to correct it or make his claim to make his day better. They're going to do anything that makes their day better. And one of those things is, misery loves company. So if I can ruin your day when my day's terrible, now we're both terrible. So I feel good now because you're here with me. So that's really what it's about. And the viewers have been doing it since the dawn of Twitch. That's why there's so many people who hate watch, even though that shouldn't be a thing. But that's been around since the beginning of Twitch because that's what streaming breeds. So then the people who are influx is the people who think they're immoral, and then the people who just want him to suffer with them. So I mean, it's a two-part thing. It's not every time there's an issue, there's going to be multiple sides that want to bring the streamer down. It's not really, it's not really because of the political climate at all. The people who don't watch or who are talking about politics, those guys usually aren't on the stream because their lives are too busy. People who are on the stream, it's because they're trying to escape from reality.
I mean, just appearing thousands of feet in the air, right? But it didn't come from nothing, right? It came from where most resentment comes out of, and that is from the worsening material conditions of the population. Gentrification of three stages: first, platform strategies of experience; second, they degrade user experience, the benefit advertising; finally, degrade both user experience to maximize profits for shareholders. This cycle results in useful servers being filled with more ads, less relevant content. All while the people on the platform experience the environmental negative effects of streamers and audiences. I don't know if I fully agree that it's like specifically a platform, right? Because like most people can look past the platform getting worse or move to different platforms, but this is happening everywhere, right? We're talking about streamers, but it's happening to like TikTokers. It's happening to music artists who don't even have a specific platform, right? It's happening to Hollywood actors, you know? Then we have lines down the Black food banks. I mean, shut down and now Snap, our whole country is building a ballroom and buying private jets while we kidnap most civilians. Seeing people that don't know what it's like to struggle and hurt who can afford that to check out his information. Yeah, 100%, exactly. I was listening to it rewards child exploitation of others for content, and it's more transparent now than ever. That's true, right? It's I think, and this is why I think Ludwig got so much hate for like that clip, right? I think partially because like the Hassan fans were just like, wow, man, you're a bad friend. It's not a good friend thing to do, right? I think that was a part of it. But I think another part of it, I think the most important part of it was Ludwig very openly saying, yeah, no, this is a fucking paycheck to me. You know, like this is a paycheck, you know. I get my money, I care about my money, so that's all that matters to me. And I think people saw that and they were just like, oh, fuck this dude, you know? Because while you have to worry about how you're going to feed yourself and your family, your kids potentially, how you're going to survive in a world where, you know, the gas is just exorbitantly expensive, so you can't even drive to work anymore. You got fired from your job and the job market is so abysmal, you can't find another job, you know? And like all of these things are just happening around you and your family's being deported, your friends are being deported. ISIS is like literally killing people in your neighborhood, right? You open up Twitter, which you shouldn't do, but you open up Twitter anyway, and you see Homeland Security tweeting at freaking hood edits.
Him saying that is almost ridiculous because Ludwig, like he said, isn't even friends with Hassan, and that's due to this streaming thing. The reason why they interacted was so Ludwig could make more money and acquire more viewers. So it's like, when you say those things, him saying, "Oh, all this is to get a bag." This was the way he used to escape from having to make money in the real world. So his goal is just to continue making that money in any way that's easy for him to escape reality. So if not talking about politics is that, then that's what he's gonna do. And Ludwig, he's always been very upfront about it. I don't People are like, oh, you're a bad friend. I mean, Ludwig wasn't known for being a great friend on the stream. And so when he got a lot of flack from it, I think it's really just because there's just a lot of people who watch Hassan and Ludwig at the same time because they've seen them appear together and because there's not contradicting views because Ludwig doesn't point out any views of his own while he streams. So it's easy for people to watch both of them. People usually don't like watching people who have extremely contradicting views unless both of them are just very, very great streamers, which usually isn't the case. Usually, if somebody has like a huge contradicting view, they're probably not that good of a streamer, but they just are able to bring a lot of shock factor on the streams. Like people watch streams, different streams for various of reasons. Like if they're watching every single stream, it's because they like the personalities and they know it's usually going to be quality content. But if they're just going because of a random event, that means that they expect the content to be high, but they don't care that much about that person's identity. Ludwig doesn't show his identity, but he usually has good content. So with the Hassan thing, he had to make it known that this guy isn't my friend. I don't really need to defend him. I don't really need to defend him. Y'all just believe that we're friends because we've appeared on stream together. Which is where the whole bringing reality into the streaming thing. Because I think Hassan even knew the same thing. That's why he didn't like get mad about all the people who said things about him.
Whatever. I don't remember what his name was. And you're just like, we live in a joke country. What is happening? You have no healthcare. You have student debt. Oh, genius. Thank you. Hood genius. You have so much student debt. You can't buy a house. You know, you can't afford your parents' medication. And you look online and you just see like rich people be like, dog, I do this for a paycheck. I care about my money. You feel me? Like that will frustrate you. Like it's a paycheck. As you become successful, you almost certainly become less more people struggle. No, I don't know that is avoidable. I mean, it is avoidable if you just are aware of of your privilege, right? And you are aware of the shit.
It's avoidable if you are aware of your privilege. He says that from the person who has 1,000 subs. Hey, look, he's doing way better than me in life. But how do you know that it's avoidable? That's that's why I feel like he doesn't really understand Twitch that well. But maybe once he gets more experience and gets like 2,000 subs, and he's gonna have like a little bit of a different difference of opinions on it. Cause I mean, he's in his grinder phase, so he's thugging it out. So I respect it for sure.
times, Like it is callous, right? You have to be aware that things are shifting, things are changing, people are angry, right? And you speak to that anger, right? You at least acknowledge that anger. Hey guys, I see what's happening with the ICE race in LA. It's happening right down the street from me, and it sucks. I'm sorry. Nobody should have to live in fear that their family, who's lived here for years, is going to be taken away and separated from them. That's it. That's literally all you have to say. I said this in the video that I made about this, right? And this is my video. Wait, hold on, it's right. Okay, not this one. It's
Yeah, but when you're okay, I'm different because I'm black, so I'm gonna always support my beliefs and make sure it's known. But Ludwig doesn't know who's coming to view him. Just as an example, he doesn't know who's coming to view him. So when he talks to people, he doesn't talk to them in a certain direction or look for a certain community. Ludwig he never fell into any tropes he because he doesn't speak to any community. That's why he's able to collab with everybody. That's why he was able to collab with everybody, simply because he didn't make any sort of directional choice and what he believes in. Now, if he's to say, "Oh, it's unfortunate about the ICE raids," like speaking from a moral point of view, then that means he's trying to talk to the people who care about morality. Like a lot of people are just going to Twitch for a joke, and a lot of people don't care what joke that side comes from. Which is what I say. You gotta understand the history of Twitch if you want to comment on the way people act. Now, I'm not saying that Ludwig is a good person. I'm saying he's probably a bad person. But the reason why he acts that way, I mean, he's always acted that way. He never changed anything. And him not changing is what keeps his consistent fan base. They say, "Oh, you're such a bad friend," but his viewers are not going to drop off. 1000%, they're not going to drop off.
I thought it was a video, but it's not this one. It's here. ICE protests in LA, why silence from creators is dangerous. You should watch my video on this. I talk about what creators are saying and talk about why I think it's important for creators to speak out on these issues and why I'm so tough on creators to speak out on these issues deeper than just this one specific instance. So this person said that Tina talked about this for a while. There was like a discussion, and this was just like any part of the discussion. I am curious to see the full discussion. But we'll start with okay, sorry, you're good chat. I was trying to figure out how it was, how it involved this.
I see her talking about it is simply because she is the person who benefits from talking about this. The people who talk about it are people who benefit from talking about it on this streaming thing. The streaming thing is not real life. So that's why I say it's like you want to be like, "Oh, they should do this," but they're not even indulging in real life while streaming. So you're like, why aren't these people talking about this and bringing up real life topics? Because they don't benefit from doing that, and their stream doesn't revolve around that, and because their viewer base doesn't revolve around that and those issues.
No worries with this.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
Of course, I brought it up because I want you guys to know that I don't work with it, obviously. And I think sometimes it can be comforting to know that like the person that you're watching or supporting, still wants you around and doesn't want you to like have your family torn apart or have everything you've like worked up to just be like ripped from you. So I just want you to know that I don't stand with it. That's about all. And of course, if you have like resources to share, it's nice. There's, if you see ICE, make sure you like call, the respective numbers, you report them.
The Facebook more shareability now because they've swung out in favor of Palestine or against ICE, even like Shemai's thing. I feel like that causes viewers to trust them more compared to Ludwig or Akili, or don't talk about anything. People want to feel like their shows are acknowledged and they lash out at those who don't do so. I think the FaZe boys are different because it's just a different audience. You know what I mean? I don't think you're inherently incorrect, but like the FaZe boys audience is just different than like the audience of like a Ludwig or a Tina or Cutie or like I think like the FaZe audience is not inherently more progressive, right? But I think like Ludwig's audience is like more progressive than like the FaZe audience. You feel me? Like Tina's audience is more progressive. The FaZe audience is just like they're kind of TikTok brains, and TikTok hates Israel, so like they're also going to be anti-Israel. You know what I mean? And maybe not. No, Ludwig's audience is like more progressive than like the average audience. I think right now he's raising comment. This is true, right? And this is not a dig at FaZe, but I think the FaZe has been better than like pretty much every other streamer like space on like Palestine. Let's be real, I think why TikTok is bought out. I mean, the switch hasn't happened yet, but like TikTok, the base on TikTok is better. Like they're good on Palestine, which causes the FaZe audience, which is like a younger TikTok-esque audience, to also be good on Palestine. And like, in Palestine specifically. Don't ask them about other issues. Do you think some streamers are talking about ICE and fascism because they see so as a content type, not really a thing that will affect them? Yeah, they just don't really care. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't affect them. Like it's not that they don't care. It's that they don't think about it, which is basically the same thing. But me saying that they don't care feels like I'm saying something malicious. It's just that they don't think about it. Like they genuinely, it does not cross their mind, right? It's more ignorance than like malice. It doesn't cross their mind. Like, why would it? Like, the effect of like Trump's policies and like the genocide, like they play video games for a living and they make millions of dollars. It's not something they think about. You know what I mean? Like by and large, it just isn't. You know, and anything that they put in the box of politics is something they just don't touch because it gets in the way of, like, you know, of doing like their job essentially. So when ignorance becomes malice, no, those are just different things. Ignorance can't become malice, right? Unless it becomes just a different thing. Like ignorance is just like not just being aware, but if they learn about it and they're just like, I'm not talking about it because I don't want to. That's malice. That's no, you can't be. If it's malice, it cannot be out of ignorance, right? Because malice is intentional. If your ignorance is absolutely not hostile, well, then it's not ignorance. Then it's not true ignorance. You know what I mean? If they are aware that they are ignorant and then they're like, I'm going to stay in my bubble and separate myself from learning about more things, that's not ignorance anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, that would be indifference. Exactly. It's not vital to their survival to notice or care so they don't. Yeah, arrogance is the word. That can also work, indeed. Right. Anyway, but the point is like that's my perspective on like why it feels like for the past 2 days the viewership has been very hostile, right? And you can see that manifest itself with like Cutie talking about the Aiden Ross Asmongold collab thing or whatever. If you know what I'm talking about. Oh, excuse me. Jeez Louise. I have so many freaking tabs. This thing. I did a tweet from Cutie as a joke at first, but people went insane over it. Yes, people did go insane. Right. So this tweet was from Dexter that said Asmongold and Aiden Ross are planning to collaborate on a streamer award show. We got to figure out categories, hosting, presenting, getting people there, incentivizing people to go there. And then Cutie said, people ask me my opinion on this, and to be honest, there are 20 categories that they could do that I think would make the show unique and special. People ask me every year to do the drama categories like best breakup, best cancellation, best drama, etc. I actually think that they could lean into that and make something incredibly entertaining that neither of them are afraid of doing. In other words, I don't see them as competition because I know that they would be a unique product. I'm confused by that because I read the tweet as it being like, you know, has categories I would never touch. Not that she's going to work with them, or other people say that she's working with them. I don't think I saw people saying that she's working with them, but I did see a lot of people. She just said that they can't. I think they can do it. I do it, right? It was a polite insult. Yes, right. I do understand the take of people being like, the way I read it, like people don't really understand the art of shit talking anymore, right? Like she's shitting on them by being cordial or whatever. I read her being sassy. Yeah, that's fair. Right? That's fair. The problem is people don't want you to be sassy to Nazis. That's the issue. People don't want you to be passive aggressive to Nazis. That's the issue, right? You don't engage with the Nazis, and if you do, you're hostile to them, right? You're passive aggressive to a coworker that you don't like, you know. But Asmongold and Aiden Ross have been the cause of so.
You see how you just said that? She's passive aggressive to them because they're coworkers. That's why I say he doesn't really understand this whole streaming thing or the history behind it. They're all co-workers. They're not real life people. When Cutie Cinderella gets off the internet, she's whatever her real name is. When Ludwig gets off, he's Ludwig Ogren. He's not Ludwig the streamer no more. So he's not worried about confronting Asmongold, or she's not worried about confronting Asmongold or Aiden Ross because she's not going to interact with them in real life. So that's, I mean, he said it like, I guess he didn't understand it, that he literally proved why they don't talk about those things, because as long as they're a coworker, you got to be cordial with the coworkers.
So much harm, right? That people even engaging with them, right, and giving them any credit, even if it's sassy credit, is going to come across as like you're not taking their harm seriously, especially when nobody in the space takes the harm that they cause seriously. You know what I mean? And that frustrates a lot of people, right? Absolutely nobody. People still collaborate with Asmongold. People talk around Asmongold. They collaborate with Aiden Ross. They talk around Aiden Ross. They treat Aiden Ross like they're like the coworker that you don't really like, but they just let them still be around. And nobody actually addresses the true material harm that these two cause, right? So there was an expectation for Cutie if Cutie is going to address them, to address the harm that they cause. And this week just wasn't that.
There is no expectation. You just said nobody does it, so why would Cutie Cinderella do it? That's the whole reason. Because nobody does it, so why would she be the one to do it? Because she's real? Bro, you just gotta understand, like, that these people are not real people. So when you stream and you're calling them out for not being real, I mean, it never was real though.
Right? So I don't think Cutie was wrong for doing this tweet, inherently. You know, I can acknowledge that she was being a little bit sassy. They can't do it like I do it, so I'm not worried about them, right? But again, as I was saying beforehand, the space is just in a different, like, it's in a different place. It's not what it was in 2020, right? The material conditions of the viewers have worsened and worsened and worsened, right? Fascism has risen and Nazism has grown, and nobody in the space is addressing it. Outside of like Hassan, got topic phase and OSCS are actually racist toward Indian and black people. Like, you just gotta react when an Indian slash black woman appears on their Hinge. Also, Hinge content is weird. I agree. But that's, listen, the phase conversation is a slightly different one that I would not be delving into. What would she have said? I assume you mean what should she have said? And my answer is nothing. Overly sensitive? I mean, yeah, no, yes. Like, the answer, yes. These people are overly sensitive, but that's because, right, they're rubbed raw. You know, like if you have rope burn, right, on your arm, that space is going to be sensitive. It's going to be more sensitive than the rest of your body. Yeah, because you just got a rope burn on it. These are marginalized people that are harmed, right, by society, by the rhetoric from Asmongold and Aiden Ross, by Trump's policies, by the increasing presence of ICE, by the genocide, by, you know, the worsening material conditions. So yes, they are sensitive. They are very sensitive. And they're very on edge, right? Because they are the most marginalized people among us. People are actively harmed all day long. They're going to be sensitive when they're trying to relax and they see the shit. Yeah, when I see that Amaranth clip this year, I was shocked how blatant it was. Yeah, there were people still being pally with her. I don't know what Amber's clip we're speaking about. I don't know every anti-gay drama that has happened. The show targets comedians, she says nothing. Then let them chirp. Let them chirp. Just being anti-trans and pro-ICE in one sitting. Did I cover that? I don't think about Amaranth, honestly. I don't think about Amaranth. So I just don't know if I covered that or not. Also, that's the main thing that you did cover it. Oh, well, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Anyway, but like that's the point, right? The point is that that's why the reaction, the Amaranth bit was Peach and Sierra would have been hilarious. True. That's a good point. That would have been funny. Honestly, just because I don't think Kick streamers have the capacity to be funny. that's just me though. I think the streamers are often more relatable, especially when they start out when they see someone they originally viewed as someone at the same level of success level as they are suddenly get big and they're rich, makes it insecure, wonder why they can't get ahead. I don't know what that's referring to specifically. Never seen a funny Kick clip. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, but that's why I think people were so mad at this tweet. Again, I don't think this tweet.
The reason why he keeps reading comments and he doesn't know what they're referring to is because the same thing that he's doing, where he's interjecting his view on what he believes to be the state of society interacting with the streamer world, is the same way that the viewers are trying to put their own conjecture and compare it to his, but it's not reality, and it's not the way these people operate. So the viewers are drawing blanks the same way he was. And this is not a dig at him. I'm just commenting on the video. I think he is pretty intellectual, but this is not the case.
Demanded the amount of anger that it got, right? In the same way that I don't think the Ludwig clip demanded the amount of anger that it got. But it got the amount of anger that it did because people are very on edge, because the material conditions are the worst that they've been in decades, essentially, right? And for the young people who watch streamers, it's the worst that they've been their entire life. Her response to the anger didn't make it better either. That's also true, right? But I think from her perspective, right, she didn't understand why people were angry, right? She from her perspective, it came across as like, oh, like these are just overly sensitive people. And I think Ludwig tweet has been saying for like a while, he was well deserved. No, even like I think that like backlash was like deserved for the tweet. Like I talked about it as well. But the amount of anger that it got was not like proportional to how bad his language was in the tweet. You know what I mean? Ludwig has said and done worse things than he said in that tweet or that clip. You know what I mean? Like there are plenty of reasons to like get mad at Ludwig. I think that being why people were so angry came for the reason why I spoke about. You know what I mean? That's it. I think.
No, the reason why is because Hassan's community is very large and very territorial. So all of Hassan's fans will defend him just the same way all of Asmongold's fans will defend him. But only difference is that Hassan and Ludwig have similar fan base just because they didn't have conflicting opinions. So the people who were Hassan fans defended him. Ludwig's fans, they're not going to defend him if he does something wrong, but that's simply because he didn't cultivate a community that are trying to defend him. Asmongold's fans will defend him because they need Asmongold to continue their life, same way that Hassan's fans need Hassan to continue their life. But Ludwig fans, the way he's set up his community, it's not necessary to create a cult.
That like there's a disconnect, right? There's a disconnect between the viewer base and the streamers.
Looking for an easier way to get that LLC next to your business name? Say hello to Taylor Brands. Just go to their site, enter your LLC.
There just is. There's a disconnect there. And I don't think streamers are ready to reckon with the fact that like there is that disconnect. Just wanted to like he doesn't get what people angry than usual. She's around to talk about real life shit. I mean, I can understand you're on Twitter and you just see people yelling at you and you're just like, why are people yelling at me? You misunderstood what I was saying. Leave me alone, kind of thing. Like, I get that. That makes sense. I understand. On Twitter. Yeah, okay. That's the next thing. That's the next thing. Where do you even start with the fan? I have a tweet saved, but like, okay, actually I know where to start. So in response to the Ludwig clip that we talked about, it's actually not the Cody KDB. It's from it is Cody KDB. No, it wasn't this. It was the other one. Sorry, there's another one that I was talking about. She made a response in response to this tweet as well. Everybody's just tweeting right now, okay? Maybe we should all just get off of Twitter. Maybe that will solve a lot of our issues. If we all just get off of Twitter. Like you all, I'm staying on there. I get good engagement. Twitter is literally my most successful platform. So I get like millions of impressions like every week. It's literally my most successful platform. I'm not leaving. But you all should take a break from it for sure. Who broke 100K likes is never leaving. No, you don't understand. I broke 700K likes. I'm definitely never leaving. I break 100K likes like bi-quarterly. You mean? Like I broke 700K likes. That's bro, I can sell my account for a pretty penny. Like emotion now. I'm saying, which is why you should vote for me for the Streamer Awards. The Streamer Awards. The nominations have opened today. Just go ahead and log in with either one of these. You just scroll yourself down past all these categories. Don't even worry about them. To number 30 out of 35. And just go ahead and put me in Rising Star, Sean the Black. All right, King. Thank you, Side Girl. I appreciate that. One of you best Minecraft streamer. Thank you. Is this the Tina conversation again?
Just give me 1 second. I'm not continuing that. But Hey, that was a good video, Sean the Black. Um, appreciate you for speaking up on that. That it is important to acknowledge that that is the state of the world, and that does affect the way the viewers react to their streamers. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. I do think though that um it was a little off, but Sean the Black, you're definitely on the rise, big bro. You're definitely on the rise. Um, I'm glad I watched this video with y'all. I've risen, you've risen, and tomorrow will rise again. So, amen. Amen.